Hey everyone, so today we're going to be taking a look at the SIG 938. This is Sig Sauer's little 9mm pocket pistol. We're going to be doing a quick little review, a disassembly, and we're also going to take it over to the laser light target system, and we are going to see what kind of groups we can pull out of this guy. So, nonetheless, let's get started. If you go on Sig Sauer's website, you'll see quite a few different models of these, mostly featuring different aesthetics like grip panels and finishes. A few of them have different sights, and this one is the Nightmare, which is a black nitrite coated gun with some stainless accents on the safety slide stop and magazine release. It also has black grips, and this one comes with Trijicon night sights. I know some of them just come with the standard 3-dot. I prefer the night sights on these, especially because it has the one-hand manipulation little claw here for if you have to rack it off the pants or rack it off some sort of ledge or your holster or something. They're great for that. Also, they have a little white circle around them with a tritium insert on the inside. Great sights. So let's go ahead and talk about the finish. Finish on this gun is pretty decent. It doesn't seem as good as, say, like the Glock pistols or the M&P pistols that I've experienced with. If you're OCD about guns, you'll see that the barrel kind of wears off fairly quick with the finish. And this gun doesn't have a whole lot of rounds through it. It does have a lot of dry fire practice and a lot of malfunction practice through it. And I personally don't care about the finish too much on guns. It is a tool. But if you're OCD about the guns, you might not like that. It has a fairly well-sized slide stop here. The gun also does lock open on last round fired. I know a lot of guns don't do that. This one does. Locks open really nice, fairly smooth to drop the slide. This one features an ambidextrous safety. You don't care for it too much. It's a little loose, to be honest, and when I shoot it, I kind of get a high shooting grip, and my finger tends to push on this a little bit, so I have to counteract it by also pushing down on this side. Kind of annoying. I know they have some models, I believe, that just has one-sided safety. I would prefer that. At the time when I got these, this was shortly after it came out, so they were a little harder to find, so I just went ahead and grabbed this one. It's not been a terrible gun. I do have some other ones that I prefer over this. I haven't shot this too much. It only has about 600-700 rounds through it at the most, and that's just a rough estimate. Reliability-wise, it's been mostly reliable. I've noticed with the magazines, if you load them all the way, and it does it with both, so I'd say it's a gun issue. If you put the magazine in the gun, now, no ammo. If you put the magazine in the gun and you rack one in, hit the tripod there, sorry. If you rack one in and then pull the magazine out, the other bullet in this magazine will be like halfway sticking out. So if you get this gun, I'd go ahead and practice some double field malfunctions quite a bit, because I haven't had too many issues with it. I think only 1 or 2 malfunctions shooting it. I do know some people that have it that have had pretty good luck with theirs. I also have seen other guys on the internet that just have totally hated theirs. But been okay gun for me. Grip panels, I've noticed, will fall off every once in a while when you shoot because the screws are pretty shallow and these grips are thin. So go ahead and Loctite them right out of the box, or you'll lose some grip screws and have to get them replaced. Trigger on the gun is okay. It's a little gritty and mushy. Not too bad. The brake is fairly light. The reset's what kind of sucks. There's a lot of grit in the reset, and it's just not that great. I have shot the little 380 versions of these, and I've noticed they do have a better trigger. I'm not sure why these have a worse trigger. It's not terrible, and in a defensive situation, you're not going to be going, oh man, this trigger sucks, while you're trying to get some guy who's beating you to death off you. So, not too bad. It's definitely shootable. The gun's fairly accurate. I'm able to get one-hole groups at within 8 to 10 yards. Past that, it opens up a little bit. Close up, you're going to have no problem. Carrying this gun is also very comfortable. It is quite small, and I'll go ahead and do some size comparisons here in a minute, but it is very small. For its size, it is an all-steel gun, so it is a little heavy for its size, but again, it's not heavy. It's just for its size, and compared to other things, it's not that heavy. Action's pretty smooth overall, so let's go ahead and do a couple size comparisons. Now, I'm going to be comparing these with some things that are pretty common, as well as some really common and popular firearms. So let's go ahead and compare it to a dollar bill. This is just $20 bill. You can see the whole gun overall is about the length of a US dollar. As you can see, lengthwise. So that is something you can hold in your hand now while watching this video and kind of get an idea for it. Again, this is a hard way of seeing width, but as length, you can kind of see it. Okay, let's compare it to another popular carry gun. This is a Glock 23 or Glock 19. This one just happens to be the 23. Not a whole lot smaller. I'm going from the beaver tail forward, which gives a lot of length to this gun. If I go slide to slide, you can see it's not a whole lot thinner than this little 23 here, but definitely smaller on the grip wise. And when it comes to carry guns, especially if you hold it, carry it in a holster, the length of the slide doesn't really matter as much as the grip length. So as you can see, the grip is much shorter than this Glock here. Okay, go ahead and compare it to a 17 as well, just in case if you don't have a 23. Again, same thickness wise. This is a 17, so this is a 9mm. Definitely thinner, definitely way shorter. This is probably not a great size comparison, but just doing this in case, you know, you may have a Glock laying next to you or somewhere in your house, or you own one that you can do a quick little size comparison with. You see the grip's also much thinner overall. Here's my current favorite little carry gun, or just small gun overall. Here's the Smith & Wesson Shield. This is also a 9mm. If you do beaver tail to beaver tail, they're actually the same length. The Shield's actually just a hair thinner, grip-wise, slide-wise are the same. The 938 is just a little bit shorter, so it's definitely smaller. This gun, also size-wise, you can probably get away with holding it in a pocket holster. You can get away with doing that. It is pretty small. I know the 380 version of this, you definitely can. Again, I can only get 2 fingers on the gun, 3 with the extension. And I'll go ahead and do a 1911, because I know some of you 1911 guys are maybe looking at this because it's similar to a 1911. It's way smaller. As you can see, the slide's much longer. This is a full-size 1911. Again, sorry about hitting the tripod here. Much shorter, a little bit thinner. And lastly but not least, if you're not a Glock guy or a 1911 guy, Smith & Wesson guy, here's the Smith & Wesson M&P Pro. Now, if you kind of ignore this little front part right here, that'll be the size of normal M&P, like standard size. Again, much shorter, much thicker. So just giving some size comparisons, because I know with carry guns, size is pretty important to most people. So, and it's hard to get an idea just looking at pictures of it online. So there's just a little size comparison. Some other things about the gun you might need to know. Magazine release is pretty positive. It does throw off the magazines pretty well. It almost shoots them out of there. In fact, if you hold it upside down so you can kind of see how much force it pushes on it. Fairly easy to load on a full magazine, too, with the slide down. Not too hard. It does give off a little bit of pressure. If you are using the one with the little base plate, be careful when you reload. Trying to kind of hold it like this when you reload, because you can pinch the crap out of your hand, and that can either cause a malfunction under stress or you can cause an injury to yourself. Also, this is good for if you have some sort of like double feed or have a problem with the magazine, you have to pull it out. There's a little like radius right here, so you can actually almost fit your fingers and pull this out if you needed to. Also with this lip, you can use it to grab a hold of stuff. Flush magazine. You also actually can have some trouble pinching yourself if you're really close to it, but it's mostly right here on this little lip. Now I have noticed in practice that there's enough space right here where you can hook that on your pants if you had to pull that out in an emergency, if you only had access to one hand. Of course, you can do a standard inertia bump where you push the magazine and hit something really hard and it might knock it loose a little bit. The little beaver tail is nice here in the back. You don't really get any slide bite. My hands are about medium-sized hands. If you have larger hands, you might experience it like your hand coming up here and you get a little hammer bite. The safety I don't care for because, again, I bump it. And you should carry this cocked and locked. It is single action, unfortunately, so carrying this, you want to carry it cocked and locked. It deactivates the safety. When the hammer's down, you can still cycle the action, which is nice. I know on other 1911s, you actually can't do that. Now, if the hammer is down and the safety's on, it locks the action. You can't actually cycle it. So I guess that's a good way for a safe way to store this. If you're putting it in a safe or something, you can kind of have it locked up a little bit. But safety, if you're going to carry it cocked and locked with the magazine in. The safety is one of those safeties that is really easy to swipe off and get into action. Sorry, bumped the tripod again. Really easy to swipe off and get into action, but it's one of those ones that are really kind of hard to swipe on, which really isn't that big of a deal. Reholstering, swiping it on, you could just use your other finger real quick and reholster if you had to. Safety is a little cumbersome. I know the ambi safety is probably a little bit nicer. Also mentioned earlier, I think that's a little loose. Sights are great. There is no grip safety, which I love. If this had a grip safety, I'd say don't bother with it. I just don't like grip safeties on guns. In fact, I really don't even like single action guns. Really, I prefer striker fire for carry, and in some cases double action only, but most of my handguns are striker fired. That's just my personal preference. Really comfortable gun to hold. Normally that's not a big deal. It mostly matters when you're shooting, of course. So the recoil is a little bit snappy. It isn't a little 9mm, and it is fairly small for its size, so of course it's going to be snappy. It's not as smooth as some other guns I've shot, like the Shield. Now, it is much better than the little light polymer framed guns. I actually prefer this over, say, like the Kel-Tecs. In fact, I prefer anything over the Kel-Tecs. But like the cars and stuff like that, it's a little bit nicer, I'd say. Although they are nice. When you get to this era, there's not a whole lot of great guns, to be honest, in these small pocket-sized 9mm. Of course, you got guns like the Shields, and the XDS is okay. I'd still prefer the Shield. But not a bad little gun overall. It is a little bit snappy, so it might not promote a lot of shooting at the range, which is kind of a bad thing. If you're recoil sensitive, this might not be the gun for you. If you're recoil sensitive, you might almost want to go with the 380, although the 9mm is definitely better as a concealed carry round overall. But if you're giving this to somebody, or someone's buying this and they are recoil sensitive to shoot it, they might not want to shoot it, which might not promote them to train. And if they don't train, they're not going to be proficient when carrying the gun. So if someone you're buying this for, say like a loved one you want them to carry, if you're really recoil sensitive, this might not be the gun for you. Now, if you're a normal shooter and you are pretty proficient shooter, you should have no problem with this. One-handed shooting is not bad at all. It's not terrible. It's definitely not as bad as some other guns that I've shot that are this small. So let's go ahead and show you a quick little disassembly. This is pretty straightforward. So what you're going to want to do is line up that little half circle you see there on the slide with this little circle notch on this slide stop on the inside. And then on this side, when it's lined up, you want to push that. And you might want to get your fingernail underneath and pull it out, or get like a little non-marring tool or something to do it. Or marring if you don't care, but normally you can do it with your finger. At first it might be a little hard. So get your fingernail under there, or just push this side. Again, I'm doing this through a little tiny viewfinder, and I can't see the gun besides through the viewfinder, so I'm sorry. So once that is out, you just pull this straight out, and you let your slide go forward. Now, some important things to note before I go any further on this: do not pull the trigger with this gun disassembled. It can go out of place and just out of whack, according to SIG. Also, this little piece right here, don't push this too far down, because according to SIG, it will screw up the gun, and according to other people I know, it will mess up the gun, and you almost have to send this back to SIG or find a certified gunsmith to fix it. But you do have to push it down when reassembling. Side note, so just be careful when handling this. I like to leave the safety on when I have this disassembled. Also, here's your little slide. You'll notice this little cap. It's not captured. You'll notice your guide rod and spring and your barrel. You just push this a little bit forward, and it'll kind of slide out with you. And the spring also comes out. The spring is not side specific, so it doesn't matter really which side it goes back in. There's also a little recess right back here where the spring fits into. This curved area here is what goes against the barrel. You'll notice too on this, and you may have noticed if you already have this gun, that this barrel will actually go out of place. I don't know why it does this. If you found your barrel getting stuck like that and you can't get it over, just don't be afraid to really push on that to get it over. But the barrel does move in place, which I found really odd. I don't know why it does that. But to take the barrel out, you just push it forward a little bit and lift it up and pull it out of the back. So it's a fairly straightforward gun to disassemble, fairly easy. Now let's go ahead and put it back together. Barrel goes in through the front, And again, I'm doing this through a little tiny viewfinder. Slide it forward a little bit, it'll lock into place. Make sure that's lined up like this. Again, I don't know why it moves. With the little half circle down in the back, pushing up against this little lug here. Take the spring, put it in this little hole up here in the front. Right here, it'll slide into place. This can be a little tricky sometimes. I wouldn't look directly at this because it might shoot out and hit you in the face and maybe your eye, so just be careful. It's a little tricky to show on camera too. And don't worry about the spring too much, you won't hurt it. Just don't try to bend it or anything and it'll be fine. But there you go. It'll look like that when it's back together. Now, with the safety off, go ahead and put the slide back on. Now, you won't be able to push it on because of this little guy. So just barely push it down enough to slide under there. Don't do any more. Take your hand and just pull this back a hair because this little hole will have to line up to get this started. And it'll kind of go into place once you found that hole. Then once it's kind of in there, pull it back, it'll find its way down, and then reline it up back with that notch on the side of the slide. Push it in, you'll hear a click. It'll go back to normal. Cycle it a few times, pull the trigger, feel the reset. If everything works, you're good to go. And that's how you disassemble and reassemble the gun. So now let's take it over to the little laser target system, and we'll see what kind of groups we can get out of it. Alright guys, so we're going to try out some groups with this little gun. So we have the laser light target system over here. It's a really cool little system. I'm going to start using it in more of my videos. But basically, where's the camera? Okay, if there's a little laser right now that's activated by the firing pin going off in this gun, this is a little 9mm laser. You buy them caliber specific. And when you shoot the target, as you can see, a little laser comes up, and I'm just popping them off from a couple feet. And you can see that it leaves a little mark, and then when you shoot the display button here, you'll see a little group of dots, and that would be your group. Now, what's good about this is that I'm not going to have any ammo-related accuracy problems, so this will all just be purely the gun. So my hallway is about 8 to 9 yards. I'm going to go all the way to the back and take a couple shots, and we'll see how it turns out. I'll do about 5. Okay, that was about equivalent to a full magazine, so let's go ahead and look. So as you can see, the group is a little left. Go ahead and take it off here. So there's our group. It's about an inch, maybe 1.25 inches. Anyway, so that's about what you can expect out of the gun. Alright guys, so that pretty much wrapped things up. Of course, since this is a concealed carry gun and you do end up purchasing it, again, it is quite pricey nowadays, somewhere around $700 to $800 according to SIG's website, and also depending on which model you get. So it is a little pricey. Just overall, the gun is decent. The reliability is there. I think if you properly maintain it, it'll stay fairly reliable. I do know at my local range they had a 380 version of this that they just never cleaned, and it seemed to work fairly well. So if you have any questions, please leave it in the comments below. If you liked the video, please leave a like and maybe even subscribe while you're at it. Check out my channel for some other videos. Follow me on Facebook. Link will be in the description below. Of course, you guys, with this being a concealed carry gun, always get out there and train. So, thank you so much for watching. Talk to you guys later.